Coming to you live from my apartment, it's Rob Has a Podcast. And now here's a guy who hopes you like podcasts that are fun. I am Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our post-Survivor 42 finale feedback show, where we're going to be talking about everything and closing out season 42, wrapping up the whole season here today. And here with me to talk about it is a woman that I've talked about TV shows with for just about every single Thursday for all of 2022. We talked about Joe Millionaire. We just finished talking about Beyond the Edge. And those podcasts are still around if you want to go back and check out our Beyond the Edge coverage. And now here she is, back again to talk with me. It is Jenny Hundred Air. Jenny Autumn.
Bringing back Jenny Hundred Air. I love it. Yeah, it was just last week that we were like, it felt like we were saying goodbye, or like at least see you later. And here we are a week later. We're talking about Survivor.
I just wanted to show the, Millie gang and all of the edgers out there that, Jenny's not going anywhere.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I
appreciate. You're too good on the podcast.
Oh, Rob, come on, you're gonna make me blush. No, it's
He's
great.
Fun. Dangerous fun.
I love when I get these little rare opportunities to talk about Survivor, because it doesn't happen too often. And like the feedback is almost like slop adjacent in a way, so it's like the perfect thing for me. I feel
the post finale show is a little sloppy also.
Yeah I think it's probably the sloppiest one, right?
Because I think a lot of the podcasting is a lot of like, what do you think is going to happen? Where's this going? What does this mean?
The narrative.
And this is sort of forward, like, we close the book, and now where do we go from here?
Yeah. And you start to get like the walls come down a little bit, people are like the story is ended. So you get like people being a little bit more raw, perhaps, in like, talking about the season. And so we veer into like what can be like the fun and messier part of the
Survivor off season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And we're here for that. Of course, last night, great Survivor know-it-alls with Stephen Fishback. Probably won't talk to Stephen again for another 3 or 4 months. So
you weren't sure if you were going to talk to him ever again, it sounded like.
I asked him at the end of the show, like, are you coming back for season 43? And he was like, where do you want me to go? Well, like, where am I? Like, I'm going? Like, no, just do the exact same thing that we've done every Wednesday for Survivor for 10 years, except for the one season that you were on the show.
Yeah, he really thought you were inviting him somewhere in person or something.
Yeah. Anyway, but got to break it all down with Steven. And then also we had our final 5 exit interviews this morning, which was very fun because I never have gotten to do them on video before, Jenny. And so this was a real treat for me to get the chance to, it really is so different than just to talk on the phone to see them for these interviews.
Yeah, I think, and it's wild to me just to hear you say that, that this is the first time you've gotten to do that, because I just think that adds so much more to the experience, like being able to see people's expressions, and like, sometimes there's little surprises, like people, popping up that you didn't expect to be there, that, wouldn't come through quite as much on an audio only exit interview. So I thought those were super fun.
Yeah. So check those out. Those are out on the YouTube channel as well, and up at RHAP.com. And then we're going to work on also some longer form interviews with the rest of the cast. And hopefully I'll have some updates on that by next week. Okay. Jenny, big Survivor finale again. Congratulations to Marianne, our winner of the season. How are you feeling at this hour?
I feel great. Like, I went into the finale yesterday with really high hopes, and very high confidence, and I was just banking on things turning out the way that I personally felt like made sense narratively and would also satisfy me personally. And I love when those things can come together. And there was like most of it went the way that I wanted. There was like one little fun thing that I thought would be like really cool is if like Jonathan had won Final Four immunity and then put himself in fire against Marianne and she beat him in fire. Like this was just me like like fan fictioning like a
Fan
perfect
fiction.
we all love a little fan fiction. So I think besides that, like I definitely thought like I had a feeling that Romeo was going to win something. You know what I mean? I just felt like there was like narratively there was going to be something for Romeo in terms of winning. I wasn't sure if it was going to be final 5 or final 4. So I love that. Like it honestly satisfied me completely in every way and that's such a great feeling. You know, I can't say that I had that sort of feeling like for the finale of the last couple shows that we've covered didn't make me that as excited and fulfilled. But you know, as a Canadian, to have the last 2 winners of Survivor be Canadian women, like so exciting. And I've been saying for weeks, like one of the Canadians is winning. I just felt it. And then when Omar went out, I was like, okay, it's Marianne. It's happening. It's really happening. And it really happened. And I'm just overjoyed. She's incredible. I think she, you know, Jeff said it. She is a great winner. And I think that, you know, most of the community is on board with that, which is really nice.
Yeah.
They should be. I think it's great.
Marianne is just so cool to have as a winner of the show. I really, you know, like have gone through with watching all the 40 seasons over the last, you know, couple of years with everything we did in 2021. It's there. I don't think there's anybody else like her. You know, I've compared her to a little bit like Cochran, but you know, she's not. I mean, she's certainly she's not Cochran. I think like Elaine is somebody who else has like a little bit of like that. You know, that she was just somebody that everybody loved so much in that cast. But you know, she is like her own unique thing that we've never seen anybody else like Marianne on the show.
For sure. And I can't remember if you said this last night on Know It Alls or when this was said, but last 24 hours have been a blur. But that Marianne would be memorable even if she was the first boot. Whereas no offense to Cochran, like I don't like Cochran is like special and different.
Was. Yeah.
Well, exactly. But like and a lot of that is like following his story and his narrative and how it like went. And I just don't know that he hits the same in like one episode if you only ever see him once in the same way. Like no matter what, like the second Marianne hits your screen, she is like impactful, memorable, like invokes emotion. And I just think that is like such a rare character in the first place. Just to have someone like her on the show in the first place is, you know, kind of unprecedented. And to have that person also end up being the winner, to be like the representative of the season, like that's so great. Like I just don't feel like, you know, we often get the standout character to also be the winner. And so that is like a great result of this, because she would have been memorable no matter what. She would have been beloved no matter what. And to have it like wrapped up this way with her as the winner and the grand representative of this season is just like perfect to me.
So as far as the season goes here for Survivor 42, I don't know. Is it hot take time? Because I really feel like that in terms of like the finished product of the season, that, you know, I think that we're kind of probably in like some rarefied air with if we were going to like plot season 42 into the all-time rankings.
Oh, okay. So how are you feeling?
So, you know, if you go to robswebsite.com/rankings, you can see where the listeners ranked the top 40. It might be interesting to, you know, do that, like rerun that survey at some point, because I think there's a couple of them that are like are too low on the survey. And then, you know, and by proxy, a couple of things are too high. So even, you know, accounting for that, like, I feel like this like might be like a, you know, 9 or 10 in the top 10.
I mean,
I think that this season 42, I think could be sneaking into the, like, I don't want to be like somebody who is too much like with the nostalgia of things, but like, you know, where Survivor Philippines is 11, like, is this a better season than Survivor Philippines? Like, I think it
Yeah.
probably is. I think
Yeah.
there's probably more episodes of this that hit, right?
It's just so hard too because you're gonna get into people like being like, you can't compare like 41 and 42 to like these past seasons. It's the new era. Drop the 4, keep the 1 or the 2. And so it like I could see people really struggling to place these into a
Yeah.
ranking when, some things have significantly changed. But in terms of how I feel about the season, and obviously there's recency bias, but like I just have never had so much fun and enjoyed myself literally every week. Like I don't feel like there was a flop at all. Like
Mhm.
there was some episodes that were better than others. There were some that were more exciting than others, but even the ones that weren't like the most, explosive television, they were still fun to watch, and the storytelling has gotten so much better. So even if like the gameplay isn't like super outrageous every single week, and like there's not a blind side every single week or something like that, like I just think that they've gotten a lot better at the storytelling aspect of the edit, that you can enjoy watching the show regardless of like what's happening in the game at that point. And that's kind of how I feel about these last 2 seasons, but especially this season. There were like edit changes even just between 41 and 42 that I really loved. Like I just think that as a television product, it's just so much better. And so for reasons, it could be hard to compare that to like the 40 that were ranked already. But for me personally, I absolutely have no problem putting it in the top 10. I think an incredible cast with a lot of chemistry, some really, interesting gameplay, some really, awesome moves, and a great winner. So it's like, what else like are you weighing here? Like how can you not, place this high if you're feeling like it hit on all of these levels?
Yeah, so I am very much looking forward to. I will probably go back and rewatch a lot of this over the next week or two as I start to do my prep for going back through and doing the long form interviews. But I really am interested to going back and seeing how this goes. And so if we do have to drop the 4 and keep the 1 and keep the 2, I do also think that we can solidly say that the new season rankings are season 42 1, season 41 2.
Yes, which is confusing with
Mm-hmm.
numbers currently, but I completely co-sign that, and that's not any shade. I loved 41. 41 was a great time. I also think that everyone was enjoying having Survivor back, so I think that for a
Yeah.
lot of people, like everyone was high on 41 because it was just so great to have Survivor back, and it was different. There was a lot to take in and try to understand, but I just think also 42 benefits from doing all of the same things that 41 did, but now the viewers like have seen it play out and understand and don't necessarily need like things as like explained as much, even though we're still getting Jeff explaining things. So I do think that 42 benefits from that, because I definitely found there was parts of 41 where I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what is happening? I don't understand any of this. Like, if I'm somebody that, watches the show pretty carefully, occasionally podcasts about it, and I'm not understanding things that are going on, it's getting way too weird. And so I think that like 42 really benefited from having that, even though they didn't improve upon some things that they could have,
Mm-hmm.
at least there was familiarity, even though it
Yeah.
was like recent.
And well, I think we'll try to talk about all the Survivor 43 stuff we found out last night more a little bit later on in the show. But I thought it was very interesting that Jeff said, hey, we don't even know how Survivor 41 went. We haven't even looked at the footage yet.
Yeah.
And whether or not that's 100% true or not, that I think that does give like some hope for season 43 to be even more polished in the new era once they sort of like take an accounting of what did work and what didn't work.
It's really interesting, and I did note that when Jeff said that during the after show, I guess we're calling it, that because it sounds like the game really did start like days after 41 wrapped. So
Mhm.
it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that they really did not touch it at all, and they got the footage and then they just went straight into the next game. Did they edit the two of them like at the same time? Like were they keeping in mind like 42 while editing 41.
Yeah.
Like, it's very interesting when you think about it from that
I
context.
am, not in post-production, but if I had to guess, they just went through, they shot the footage, they started like whatever sort of like process they do to log the footage and then, get everything into the system. And then they start cutting. I think they finished season, if I had to guess, season 41 probably finished like in April. And then they started filming season 42 in May, and then they had to have it all finished by, or at least the first couple episodes finished by September. So I think at some point they finish Survivor 41 and then go into working on Survivor 42. But I do not think that they have such a big post-production team that they could be editing multiple seasons at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing is that, basically they said that, okay, because 41 hasn't aired at this point and none of them have seen it, we can reuse, like, we're doing a lot of the same thing. But now that both of them have aired, like, and 43 has at least seen 41 and maybe some of 42, they're not going to do the same things. But like, all of the people that were like mad when like things from 41 were popping up in 42, being like, didn't they hear that we hated this? Like, it's like they didn't hear it because they didn't know that when they were playing the season out. So I think now that, one, they just can't redo some of these things because you just can't redo certain things after 2 seasons once they've been seen by the next players. But also now they've had 2 runs of the things they've done, some of the changes they've made, and now they've gotten the feedback from that. And so you have to think that that is going to come into play when they have or are editing 43, because I imagine have they started? I don't know.
Good question. Yeah. Well, it'll be ready.
They had a piece.
Yeah.
They had a little teaser, at least. They've edited that. So
yeah, I'm not sure at what point they are in the production of Survivor 43, but
Yeah.
I trust them to get the job done. I wanted to just like briefly like touch on a few the different points of the episode real quick, just in case there was anything that we didn't get to talk through and get your take on everything. The final 5 was a big part of the episode. Like the bulk of the episode, I thought, was like the first hour of the show. Mike Bloom had commented on that on Twitter about how they spent so much time on the final 5 vote, and then we had like an almost no camp life leading up to the final 4 challenge, where we saw Romeo win. But at the final 5, ultimately Mike is going to win immunity and take Jonathan to get fed. What did you think about that decision?
It didn't shock me, especially because like Mike and Jonathan are boys, and I mean, it's an interesting choice in that, like, if you're trying to win your way into the final 3, and you're choosing to feed and like recharge someone who even in their worst day is like just physically so much better than everyone out there. It is a bit of an interesting choice, but I also think like Mike is a sentimental person.
Yeah.
We've definitely seen that. And he looks at Jonathan, who talks about food a lot. He's hungry. He needs more calories than everyone else. This is no like secret. We've heard so much about it.
No surprise.
And him and Lindsay didn't get picked for the last reward. And so as we heard in the exit interviews today, I guess Jonathan had passed out at some point. It didn't make the air. So obviously, I think that that's playing into Mike's decision there. It was an emotional decision to me where he's like, this is my guy. He hasn't gotten a reward. I'm sure he loves pasta. Like, you know what I mean?
So I thought that there was a possibility in this case that it was going to potentially backfire on Mike. And I really felt like that they left the door open, and shades of Survivor Pearl Islands when Burton takes Johnny Fairplay on the reward. And I thought that Marianne was really going to have her Sandra moment where she was going to, where Sandra was left back at camp with Dara and with Lil, and then, was able to flip the whole thing around and then ultimately engineer getting Burton out of the game in that spot. I thought we were really leading up to where Jonathan, like I was a little surprised that Marianne didn't, and I totally understand all the reasons why she didn't, but I really felt like it was taking me in that direction of that this was going to be like just like a double faux pas from Mike, where he took the wrong person on the reward and then ultimately, played the idol on Marianne, where then she turns around and then plays the idol on Lindsay.
Yeah, and like it literally could have turned out that way. And as we've heard, this was a possibility really close until tribal council from the sounds of it. So yeah, it definitely could have been a terrible thing. Also, Mike did not do himself any favors by low-key kind of promising both Marianne and Lindsay that he would play the idol on them. So like that was already like not a great life choice by him.
Yeah.
So
So I didn't have the chance to ask Mike this in my exit interview with him, but I had wanted to ask him about why he ultimately did that. Maybe we'll get the chance to do a longer interview, but I was sort of like thinking about that, where I wonder if he was just like trying to get Lindsay to not try that hard at the challenge, because obviously he wants Lindsay to go home. He was very clear about that, both in the episode and in the exit interview, that he really wanted Lindsay to go home. And I wonder if he's like, hey, don't forget, I have the idol too. So you don't have to go. Don't kill yourself today. Don't go crazy.
But he was still kind of saying that even after he'd won the challenge, like he was still kind of like stringing her along. And this is the kind of stuff that ended up like biting Mike in the butt a little bit, like in terms of Final Tribal, is that like he got to a point where it's like he was telling her, he's like, I really want you here, and like I care so much about you. It's like to the point where it's like you're just leading her to her death. Like you don't have to lay it on so thick at this point. But yeah, like that definitely could be part of it, is just like if she thinks that she's got a fallback plan in terms of Mike playing the idol on her, then it's not it's not the worst thing. But I also think, again, this is Mike he's a father, he has a lot of affection for all of these people. And I think from a human standpoint, it really hurt him to see Lindsay be like, well, I'm on the bottom. And, I don't think that Jonathan handled post-tribal very well in terms of his communication with Lindsay. I feel like he was incredibly...
about, in a few of her interviews, not that much with me, but that Jonathan really got under her skin in the season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was quite condescending, in my opinion, post tribal, in terms of, the discussion of you voted for me, and him just like repeating it.
Voted for me.
You seem to forget that you voted for me. And she's like, okay, but I thought we had an alliance. And then he called her aggressive. It's like, yeah, well, if you continue to speak to somebody like that, and like you're not even having a conversation with them, you're just repeating the same fact to them. It's not really a conversation. Like eventually you're poking that person enough that they might, get a little bit more animated. I don't think that it was any cause to like say that she was being aggressive. I didn't think she was being aggressive at all. So I think that was played poorly by Jonathan. But at this point, it doesn't matter. He knows, like he's got the people. But I think that Mike truly did feel bad for Lindsay, and that's part of it. He's like, a little bit of like the verbal diarrhea. He's like, I got an idol, maybe I'll play it on you. I don't know, like. But
yeah,
he was always going to do it for Marianne.
For Lindsay, like I think that she's in a bad spot. Like she's sort of like caught like dead to rights. I mean, she's kind of busted in that spot of like that. For Mike and Jonathan, it's like, yeah, like don't say like oh, you didn't know what the plan was or anything like that. But then when Jonathan keeps repeating like, you voted for me, like he's coming across as a little smug there, and it's not like handled in a way where you're trying to de-escalate a situation.
No, definitely not. And yeah, like he wasn't willing to like actually hear out, like what her understanding was. Is she's like, okay, well, I was being played by everyone here who was making me think that like you were the person being voted out. And so why is that all on me just because I went along with something that I thought everyone was doing? And I turned out to be like the person that was deceived here. Like, why are you the most mad at me? But
yeah,
he was very fixated on it. You voted for me.
Yeah, Lindsay went and then tried to get Mike to do a last-ditch effort to play the idol on her in that spot. And she laid on a pretty heavy guilt trip on Mike, which ultimately didn't work. And I had been thinking this as I was watching the episode that, Taryn brings it up a lot in covering the Big Brother live feeds, because I think there's a lot of like campaigning in Big Brother that we get to see where it's a lot of like, hey, like you owe me one, like, the guilt trip. And Taryn always brings up like that. The guilt trip does not work on these shows, that you can't guilt a person into doing what you want them to do on Survivor or Big Brother.
Especially because, like, sometimes like what you might think is a guilt trip can kind of veer into like threat territory. And I think that Lindsay was right to know Mike and know that he's like an emotional person, he's a caring person, and that his integrity is important to him. So she kind of like pinpointed that is a weak spot for him, and that is something that she could try to like manipulate. But ultimately, you know, what seems like a guilt trip can get into this place where she's kind of like, well, if you didn't follow through on that wouldn't make you look like you're a very like honorable person. Like it got to the point where it almost felt like, I will tank the jury against you. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to be careful because like there are subtle ways without directly saying like, if you do this then you have done blank or you have like gone back on your word. I think that there are like just more subtle ways to appeal to somebody's like affection for you, or they're like they're caring about you by just not even saying directly. Like I think that she could less like literally just be like having a breakdown moment and just you can try and make him feel guilty without being like, if you don't do this then like you have shown that you're not a trustworthy or honorable person because you made me a promise or whatever. So I think that that's part of the problem, is because people will take a guilt trip and it just becomes like a bit of a threat. It's just not going to work.
Just going back to Marianne with the idol and playing it on Lindsay, Mike had some interesting stuff to say in the exit interview about how like he was very confident that there was nothing to worry about, even though he didn't know Marianne had the idol. Just that in talking with Marianne, that he felt like that him and her were on the same page, that she would not have done something like that because she did not want to go to the end with Lindsay, that they had an understanding that Lindsay was going to be somebody who was very formidable to beat. And I think that there were some questions about that because we didn't see a ton from Lindsay in the first half of the game. But, ultimately, I think Lindsay did get her share of like, if that's the metric that we look at, like, I think she got like her share of, confessionals in the season. Like, I feel like that we ended up walking away while it was a slow start for Lindsay. Like, I think we came away with like a pretty fair understanding of like her game and what she was like as a character.
For sure. And like there, narratively, I felt like there were a few outcomes that were possible going into the finale. And one of them was Lindsay having, kind of an Erica-esque, narrative in terms of like a really quiet pre-merge in terms of the edit, and kind of building some momentum as you approach the finale.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't think it was the most likely outcome, there's definitely a world where I thought that made sense. So in the back half of the show, they did a lot better of a job like presenting Lindsay as like an actual contender, the fighter, in fact. Yeah.
Yes.
So I definitely think that makes sense. And just look to how the jury reacted when she was voted out at 5. Like everyone was very sad. So I think that everyone's perception that she was someone that could beat them at the end, even though she sat at that tribal council and was like, my game is one note. Like I won a competition. I'm physical or whatever. So I think that was, very recognized, and telegraphed near the end of the game. And I do really think that it's riskier for both Marianne and Mike, depending on who ends up there with Lindsay, especially depending on how she got herself there. So I think they were right to feel that way. It seemed like they literally showed the jury being like, I like her so much, this is sad. Like that's like pretty telling. Like literally the people that are going to vote are like sad that this person's going out here. So that definitely says something about how she was regarded by everyone.
Jenny, I want to bring in some of the questions that we have from
Yeah.
the RHAP listeners as we're talking through this final five. Kristen says, what's the point of going to a new island at the final five? It is not, in fact, fun, says Kristen.
I mean, I would argue that there are other choices that were made that are not fun, but this one absolutely makes no sense to me. I don't understand. It's not interesting. Like, do they really just think that they're bored and they need something else to do? It's like, oh, well, now you have to set up at a new beach. Like, no one
For
cares about
whatever
that.
reason, I think they feel like, okay, this is big for the finale. I think that maybe it was Adam on the podcast last week said that, well, they needed to like move them to another place because they needed to clean up the beaches to bring the survivor. This is like, when you're in a hotel and they're like, all right, you got to check out at like 11 a.m. because we got new people
We got to
coming in
clean
at
up
3.
before the next ones come.
So that kind of made some sense. Back in the Island of the Idols, that was the first time that they didn't do it in Winners at War, I don't believe. But they brought them to the Island of Idols, Island of the Idols, and then they had them fight for. I think that Dean got was it an idol? He got some sort of like advantage at the final five to use in the game. And they did it last season too with ultimately the answer was what the game within the game was. But yeah, who is this for? Is this just seems like that we're filling time here in the 3-hour finale?
Yeah, and I just think that there's got to be other things that they can fill the time with. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It certainly isn't compelling to me. But even the argument about like, getting the beach cleaned up for the next people, like, isn't there a way bigger gap between 42's filming
Oh,
and
sure.
43?
It doesn't make
But
any sense. Like,
but I
for
guess if they had to
this
do it for
season,
41, then they have to do it for
they
42 because they're
have
doing
to.
all the same stuff.
They
Well,
have to.
that's what they're making us think.
Yeah. I don't know. Like maybe they feel like, okay, well, this is like the Spinal 5 challenge is so physical that maybe they feel like that, okay, by adding another puzzle before it, we're really helping out the players who are not necessarily the competition beast. So maybe they feel like that there is an element of fairness to it by adding like another mental part to the challenge before we even get to the challenge, potentially. But I don't know why they have to go live on another island for this.
Yeah, you could do that without moving them to another island. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand that part. I don't really have any issue with the advantage,
Mhm.
like, little mini quest thing.
Yeah.
It's fine. I don't feel like the advantages have proven to be what was Erica's advantage?
She got like just skip like part of the challenge or like didn't have to bring back as many things in the challenge. And
Right.
also Ricard said he felt like that was the difference in the challenge where he would have
Yeah.
won immunity at the final five. So it did turn out to be a big advantage for Erica where she probably would not have won that competition
Right.
otherwise.
Yeah.
But that being said, they put like this like word scramble up on the screen. Like, was I supposed to be able to solve it? Like
Oh my
based
God.
on like what they showed me? And like,
Right. They left it on like long enough that it's like they're suggesting that you should like write it down and try and solve it
but
yourself.
it was on the screen for like 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And then like they went back and then it was back on the screen for like 4 seconds. And it's like, even if you're, the biggest like Wordle person around, like
Yeah.
they didn't even really make it clear like what I was trying to unscramble.
No, and I'm a big word puzzle person. Like that's actually like something I'm actually quite good at. If like I don't brag about much. I don't like have a lot of strengths, but word games, especially like any sort of unscrambling is something that I'm actually quite good at. And I was looking at this like what's the point of this? Like because I think it had 3 letters in the first word, but then it didn't even end up being that the first word was 3 letters. Like I couldn't figure out what the point of
Maybe what they put up
game
on the
was.
screen was not matching what was on the paper. I don't know. We
I
know
feel
that.
dumb. It made me feel dumb. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I'm actually not good at this. But you didn't have enough time to really like do it. Like, am I supposed to doing this along with them?
Why are
Because
you showing it to us if we're not
it
supposed to do
wasn't
it?
interesting to watch people try to do a like, word scramble that I can't properly do along with them. Like maybe if they kept it on the screen the entire time, like in like a lower third type of situation. But again, listen, this is TV. Like I'm not doing work.
Yeah.
I'm not doing a puzzle while I'm doing this.
Well, Jenny, you weren't the only person that was confused. Jonathan was one of the people that really had a difficult time with this.
The only word I don't have is this.
The P word.
Yeah, Jonathan was trying to figure out the P word.
Then perhaps this would be the puzzle for Dr. Mike. I think he knows a P word or two. He'd be right there with it.
Also, at the Final Five, we got to hear about the reward. They pulled out all the stops for this big reward at the Final Five. Jeff got to tell the contestants about what they were playing for here.
Yeah, first to finish, we'll enjoy back at camp pasta.
You guessed it. You guessed it.
Garlic bread. Garlic bread? You want some meat sauce? Yeah. Sure.
I hope it's not JC from Big Brother's meat sauce.
I made like a pasta with hot dogs, ground beef, and everything I found around the house. It's like a beef sauce.
Is JC okay? We know Stu makes the pizza. Does JC make the pasta?
Could you imagine?
Oh my god!
If you're just joining us, if you're wondering who makes the pasta, we've got a guy. His name is JC.
He's got a very special beef sauce. It does not contain beef. It's really not aptly named. But it's really great. You're gonna love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But Jeff was really, trying to hype up these rewards. It seemed like earlier in the season, Jeff was like trying to like downplay the rewards. But at the end of the season, Jeff knows it's the finale. He's got to really hype it up.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to like sexily say food names.
You want garlic bread, right?
Yeah.
You want meat sauce, right?
Meat sauce.
Yes. And we know Mike earlier in the season was, very pumped up for food and sauce. So that this was Mike. He wants sauce.
Food and sauce.
Yeah. So he got his sauce finally.
Listen, I completely agree with it's been widely discussed on at least the Beyond the Edge podcast that I am in favor of the sauce. Okay.
Yes. Is gravy sauce, Jenny?
Yeah, I think it is. It's like in the sauce category. Like it's in that sort of group. It's like a sauce and a dip and a like condiment all in one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's the best. That's why it's great. It's great.
Yeah, I don't think have they given away gravy ever as a Survivor reward?
No, but they should. Imagine getting like a fries and gravy reward. Also, they should have had poutine. Like there was Canadians. They could have done like a little Canadian reward.
Is that what they should have done, or that Jeff brings out? Like, all right, let's bring in the poutine.
Yeah, like they should. That's what they should have done instead of pizza. It's like we got poutine, we've got maple syrup. Here's some Timbits.
Oh, Timbits would be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they should have, given Marianne a taste of home.
One other thing about the Final Five, also, Teresa wants to know, can you talk about Jonathan's monkey walk paying off in the Final Five challenge? I nearly fell off my chair when they cut to that. We saw that Jonathan had the superhuman ability to do a monkey walk. That if you were there, you saw that I attempted to recreate it when we did the live show in New York, Jenny. How did you feel about Jonathan doing the monkey walk to get across the obstacle course?
I mean, at least there was a strategy behind it at this point. And he wasn't like, why was he doing it in the first place? I still to this day do not understand it. But I actually didn't catch it on the first watch. And I did catch it when I watched it the second time. And I did laugh at it. I'm like, what is he doing? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that helped him get across. I don't know.
Well, ultimately, Lindsay goes out at the Final Five. So the Final Four presented pretty interesting scenario we had our Samotion challenge. And Jenny, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the people who went out early from the challenge.
Yes. So we see Marianne is very excited for some motion. Everyone, we get like these great confessionals about how everyone's feeling, and like what's driving them at this point. And it just seemed like such a nice build up of like a really great moment, like, oh, a really dramatic Final Four challenge, a classic. And I really enjoy this challenge as well. So
You
I'm
do?
excited. Yeah, I think it's a fun, like, I like that it's like not largely physical. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a fun final challenge.
How
But
would
anyway,
you do? You think you could handle some motion?
probably not, but I think there's
Mhm.
probably a lot of things that I wouldn't be able to handle. So I think I would rather, if I was going to lose in a challenge, I'd rather it be this one than like me potentially hurting myself, like trying or like completely exerting my body. But it was just so wild to me how it was just like such a beautiful, like, we had tears from Marianne, like everyone was getting emotional. And then like,
It's
Mike,
emotional.
it's emotional, of course, yes. Mike goes out extremely early, and Marianne also goes out pretty early, and Jeff is just an absolute savage. Like, he immediately is just like, wow, you suck. This is like
Mhm.
the beginning stages. There's only one ball. Like, you must feel really bad about yourself right now. Like, I feel like he took it a little far. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Jeff really went in. Here's Jeff in the episode going after Mike after Mike drops the ball.
Mike drops. Mike, you're out. Mike is out with one ball. Unbelievable. Never seen that happen. Mike has no control tonight.
Like, he
I
had to
guess
turn that
when you
knife a
hear it
little.
back, I don't know if it was as bad, but it was uncharacteristic, especially in a challenge like this.
Yeah, like, we've seen Jeff be like so and so is out, like vulnerable at tribal council tonight, or like, you know what I mean? Like, he'll say something like that, but like he was just like, I've never seen anyone do this poorly. Only one ball, like, wow, I just can't. We're in the warm-up phase, like.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
like after saying all of that, like if you haven't already made Mike feel bad about himself, you say no control tonight. It's like,
Poor
yeah,
Mike.
he knows that that's what that means, but
Yeah. He
turn
had
that
in
knife
his
a little
back
bit.
pocket he was going to be able to make the fire.
I guess that's what makes him feel better, but
Yeah. I guess it's
yeah,
just a
Jeff
little
was
like
sad.
uncharacteristic because I feel like that, especially like in season 41, Jeff was like, wow, like I can't believe like Heather, the effort.
Yeah.
There's no like, but yeah, you drop a ball and yeah, forget it.
I think he just was not prepared for that to be something that happened. He did seem genuinely shocked, because I think he just keeps repeating like "wow" and that he can't believe it. But so I think that took him off course, and he lost all of his like human decency, and it's just like, that is absolutely terrible. You
Mhm.
really screwed that up.
Yeah. How did you feel when Romeo won the Final Four challenge?
I was very happy. I was very, very happy. Of course, once Marianne like also went out, and Jeff was also kind of like terrible to her too. Like, only 2 balls in play, and then he like says that kids could do it. He's like, kids could do this.
Okay, let me go up to that. Yeah, he did talk about yeah, how that little kid could do it. Okay, here we go. I think here's Marianne coming out. All right.
Oh, Marianne drops. Marianne is out, and now quickly we're down to 2, and we only have 2 balls in play. It speaks to mental exhaustion.
Okay.
This is not a difficult phase of this challenge. Lots of kids watching could do this. They've been sleeping and eating. Mike and
Okay, so I guess it is
So-
hard then.
Is it like, I understand the point of what he's saying. He's trying to be like, oh, this just goes to show like how weakened you are, but like it just comes off so insulting. Like, he's like, kids watching this could do it.
Yeah. Well, Romeo I guess he's been eating all the rice out of the pot. That's why he's able to do it so well.
I guess that's what it takes. I mean, Romeo is a very small frame. Do you think that there's something to that? Because Jeff did say that kids watching could do this. So is he trying to say this is actually more of a game for like a small person?
Steven had said that he felt like that long arms are really what you need for doing Samotion, but I don't know if he knows anything about having to win this challenge.
I mean, like, I guess if you have long arms, it helps because you can reach over to both sides easier. But I mean, really just like it's coordination and like counting, almost like timing as well. So
Mhm.
I don't necessarily like if you're not paying attention and ready, like having your arms be longer, I don't think necessarily helps. I guess maybe you just have to move less.
Mhm.
I don't know. But
Maybe. Okay.
anyway, I was very happy for Romeo. I think that this was such an important thing because like it really sucked to like go into the finale and have literally everyone counting you out and being like, we know one thing for sure, Romeo's not winning.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
like that's
You think did
hard.
he have Beyond the Edge Paulina vibes? Is he picked last?
I have no idea how his hips were doing
How
at
are
this
his
point.
hips? Yeah.
I can't imagine great. But yeah, like that really sucks. And we even, I think at the final, was it at the final 5 tribal or the final 4 tribal where Jeff is basically like, Romeo, at this point, like based on how things have gone, like you're like the least likely to win. I can't remember exactly how he put it, but I was like, you shouldn't say that. You should
Mhm.
not be allowed to say that, Jeff. I feel like that's like, even if it's obvious,
Yeah.
I just don't think it's very like fair for
Yeah.
Jeff to be saying someone who's still in the game is like the least like seen as the least likely person to win. Like I
Yeah.
think that's kind of giving things away, even if it's obvious.
That is an astute observation. Yeah, that ideally Jeff wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Also, Romeo, we haven't talked a lot about Romeo's fake idol. I think it barely came up on the know-it-alls last night.
Yeah.
How did you think about how Romeo played his fake idol?
Listen, I think that, you know, in his position, it's like try to take things into your own hands as much as possible and do what you can with what you have left. And he has seen, time and time again, like widely telegraphed in this finale as well, that he is like the default decoy vote in a lot of these
Mhm.
situations. And perhaps like he thinks there's pretty good chance that I'm fine anyway, but like maybe I can just like kind of cement that by like not having people even throw votes
Yeah.
on me. And so it's like he can at least say like, hey, if some idol plays went wacky, I could have been the like the decoy vote there, or just like the we'll cut this guy, but because they thought I had this idol, it didn't, like that was never on the table because they're like, we're not going to
Certainly.
throw a vote on Romeo.
But do you think the idol was that much of a decoy? Do you feel like how much of a deterrent from 0 to 100% do you feel like Romeo's fake idol was?
It didn't matter.
Mhm.
And I say that with love, because I actually do adore Romeo.
We stand.
We literally do stand. It didn't matter, but that's with us knowing everything. And it was always going to be down to Lindsay or Jonathan going at 5. And it was going to depend on what was happening with idols and like what certain people were deciding to do. I don't think that he was ever in any sort of great danger unless something wild happened where like Mike played his idol on Jonathan and Marianne played hers on Lindsay, and like something
Mhm.
really weird happened and he somehow was getting a vote. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
really don't think he was in any
No.
danger. So him saying he had the idol didn't necessarily change anything.
Yeah.
But from his perspective, why not?
Sure. And I liked how he attempted to turn it into a move also in the way that he stood up and put it into the fire. Should he have made it an even bigger move? Should he have? Oh my God, I can't believe you all just fell for the oldest trick in the book, fake idol. Oh, you should have seen the look on your face right now.
Yeah, because he definitely was like, and I'm not gonna play this because it's fake and I'm just gonna throw it into the fire now. It's like, keep it as a souvenir at this point. Like, it did kind of go out like a whimper, you know? Like, he
Mhm.
definitely could have like flexed a little bit more with it and made
Mhm.
it a little bit more of a a spectacle. But he definitely was like, oh yeah, remember when I said I had an idol? It was fake, guys, and now I'm gonna throw it in the fire for some reason. Yeah,
And
but
so, let me bring in a couple of questions as we're getting into the final four. Okay. This is one from Allison who wants to know: was Roxroy trying to tell Mike what to do with the fire, or just clapping the tiniest, softest golf clap in history? Did
I
you
am
see that one where
so
Roxroy
yes.
was TP, TP?
Okay, so I've watched the finale twice now.
Yes.
And this I caught my eye when I was watching it the first time. And I was so confused about what was happening
Yeah.
the first time around because I did think that he was golf clapping or doing like some sort of
Yeah.
weird like
You know,
hand.
maybe he was signaling to Jonathan, the prayer hands, the thank you, Mr. Jeff. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Jonathan. You made an
Yes.
excellent fire.
Mhm.
um, no, but after watching it again, with the context of like what was happening with the fire at that point, um, I do believe that, and I don't know if he was trying to signal to Jonathan that like, okay, now you need to make the TP to get the flame to grow, and to rise. I don't know if he was like consciously trying to signal to him or if Roxroy just literally can't help himself and he's like role playing. He's
Yeah.
sitting there and he's like, and then you do this.
Yeah.
Like he's
Roxroy's like little league dad, you know,
yeah.
he's really good. Like, "Yeah, come on, come on."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You got
Like
this.
he just can't help himself. Like it's probably killing him that he's not being able to do this. And so I think that he's having
Yeah.
like he's living vicariously through them in this moment. But truly the first time I saw it, I was like, because the way that he like clasps his hand, well, not clasps, but like he just like puts his hands together. Like it did sort of look like he was getting excited and it was like
Mhm.
almost a clap, but I really do think that he was signaling
On
to
the edge
do
of his seat. He loves it.
yeah, but he can't help
Yeah.
himself. He's over on the jury and he's still in it. He's like, I can build that fire. I'll show you how to do it.
And then, Jenny, do you feel like the final four fire making still, or has any, if it ever did, has juice? Or do you feel like that maybe, we have grown accustomed to it and, it brings something to the finale?
Okay, so my feelings on the final for fire making is like I I don't like it, but I also think that a lot of really great players go
Mhm.
out right before the final 3 or final 2 depending on the season, and that's also a tragedy. I don't think in terms of and I don't know if it's just because we've seen enough of it now. I found this particular fire making show, what was this? Is this a standoff? Is this a face off? A face off.
Yes.
I found this to be one of the least compelling that I've
It was
ever
over very
watched.
quickly. Yeah.
It was over very quickly and also just like didn't care.
Yeah,
Like I
I
don't
wanted
know.
to tweet out a poll to people to see, like, who are you rooting for right now? Because I felt like that Jonathan was, because I felt like that, a lot of people on Twitter were rooting for Marianne,
Yeah.
certainly. Like,
Mhm.
were people rooting for Mike because, I don't care for Jonathan, which
Yeah.
we heard a lot of during the season. But Jonathan winning would have helped Marianne more.
Right.
I thought that would be an interesting straw poll to see how people were
No,
feeling during
it
Mike versus Jonathan.
it would be hard to know like what the votes are for unless you did like 4 options in the poll where it's like Jonathan because I want Jonathan to win, or
Yes,
like Jonathan because I want Marianne to have a better chance to win.
yes,
Mike because
yes.
you know what I mean? Like I think if
Would
you
have been
had
hard
it
to get all
as
those poll choices out in the couple of minutes that we had before the
exactly,
decision.
so much is
But
happening, but
okay.
it was not a long fire making. I just didn't find that it was that exciting. I also didn't really I think I was rooting for Mike. I honestly I loved Mike. Like
Yeah.
he there's a situation where things go differently. He wins Survivor 42 and is also a good winner in my eyes.
Mhm.
Obviously a lot of things have to be done differently. He has to own his game differently. So but I, as a character, as a player, as a person, I really enjoyed Mike. And so I think just even though I knew, as someone who was rooting for Marianne, knew that Mike being in the final three, especially if he got himself there from fire making, does make her path a little bit more difficult. I can like compartmentalize and still root for Mike to win fire, especially when it's
Yeah.
like Jonathan is the king at the fire, apparently. So this is like the big ultimate face off.
But maybe Mike might be better. Nobody knew for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I knew somebody who was not conflicted at all. Somebody who was very much rooting for Mike to ultimately beat Jonathan and get into the final three. Now, Jenny, back in the beginning of the Survivor season, back in the first week of March, we had a Survivor podcaster draft. And so, like we had in season 41, there was a stipulation where if a person drafted the grenade, and this came up famously more so in season 41 when Puya, our friend,
Double grenade.
got double grenaded. Where it got the first two people out of the game on their team. The stipulation with the grenade was that you could pick the first person voted out. The only antidote to the grenade was to not only have picked the winning person on your team, but the other person, besides the winner and the grenade, needed to reach the final three. Impossible task, you would think. What would be the odds to be able to pull this off? But that is exactly what happened to this man who joins us now, the winner of the RHAP Podcaster Survivor Draft by way of reversing the grenade. Here is Chappelle. Chappelle, how are you? Congratulations.
Wow.
He did it. We did it. Marianne, I know you're listening to this. We did this together as a family. I'm so happy. Rob, Jenny,
Chappelle.
thank y'all for having me.
So your draft team.
What a story.
Your draft
Thank
team
you.
was Marianne, the winner,
Mhm.
Mike, the runner-up, and there was some debate
Mm.
over who was the grenade from the season. Was it Jackson, who was medically evacuated, or was it Zach? You had Zach on your team. You were so kind as to, when there was some debate between you and Asia, who had drafted Jackson, you were so kind as to say, like, look, don't make it a controversy. I will jump on the grenade.
Yeah. I had Zach You Better Werdenberger, and I did not regret my pick. I did it for the meme, and it paid off. I was fully confident in Marianne and Mike. So I knew, like, listen, let Asia have this. That Jackson thing was like a freak accident. Nobody could have saw that coming. And so, yeah, once that happened, I said, you know what? It's all good because Marianne got me. And I was right. I have not been this happy in so long. Like, just seeing Marianne's happiness and then also knowing that I kind of want to. Oh, yeah, let's make this about me. Let's celebrate us and our win because we did it. This is good.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think it's a great stipulation, though, because I mean, you don't want it to be so impossible that, like, what's the point of having it? Like, why even talk about it? And now we've seen, after 2 seasons of you guys doing this, that it can actually happen. Like, you are living proof, Chappelle, that you can pick the grenade, you can jump on that grenade, and you can still rise to the top. And that's like truly an inspiring tale.
I am so inspiring. I really am. Like, it's just like I just put everything on my back and just carry the weight of the world. Jenny, I knew you would understand.
Honestly,
but-
if I were to ever draft, I now don't live in fear of picking the grenade, because I will think back, Chappelle, he came back from that. You know what I mean? He thought he was making this excellent villain move by swiping Zach Wertenberger away from Shannon Gus, and he ends up being the first person voted out. And we think, oh, is that karma? Is that karma that Chappelle was having a little villain moment? No. He ends up having the first and second place finisher of the season and wins the draft. Like,
Yes.
Incredible stuff. It's inspiring.
We can have fun with this stuff and still win. I listen.
Yeah,
I love.
and you
I love
should.
Shannon. I love
Of
Shannon. I
course.
do.
We
But
all
like
do.
Shannon had the opportunity to pick Zach first. Zach name dropped her. If any one of these contestants that name dropped me, I'm picking them off the rip. Like I don't care.
sure.
Like I don't
Mhm.
care. But she didn't. She sniped my first pick, who would have been Omer, and thank God she did because he sucks. But no, he did fine. He did fine in the game. He did fine in the game.
There
This
you
is
go.
like
Mhm.
he has horrible
So you have
opinions.
a
and tastes
personal
and all sorts
issue
of
with
stuff.
Omer. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
we're
beefing.
beefing. We're also besties. So it's just a
Like
thing.
all good
but-
friendships, you know.
Right.
Exactly. me, him, and Phil T. We're just kind of like a throuple of sorts.
Yeah.
But
I stand.
yeah, but Shannon picked Omer. So of course I was like, well, you have to be punished for your sins now because you had the chance to pick Zach. So I did it for the meme and I
Mhm.
stood by it. And so when the grenade debate was there, I was like, no, I made this decision knowing that it was worth the meme. If I was going to be grenaded, I was fine with it. Now, who could have predicted Marianne being the queen that she was? Me. I
Mhm.
predicted it.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to happen. Mike was my big shocker.
Right.
But again, I got the first placer, the second placer, and I got to do the meme. I got it all. I don't know
won
how
Were
to
you
in
sell
every
nervous,
way.
Chappelle, during the final 4 fire making challenge between Jonathan and Mike? Because if Jonathan makes the final 4 fire making, it's
over.
official. You're out.
Mhm.
Even if Marianne wins, and then the second play, well, and it would be interesting because you would have been out with that whoever had Romeo. I believe
Yeah.
Shannon, your
Mhm.
nemesis, would have then won the draft with Romeo, who received 0 votes.
I wasn't nervous. This is a flashy move, but it had to be done. It's I'm poverty playing 2 idols, but not protecting myself. That kind of thing. So it's all the greats. We do stuff like this. We just step out on a limb and we make these decisions. They're game time decisions. But honestly, just sign me up for the Survivor Draft Academy, the RHAP Draft Academy, so I can start to give people tips. Yeah,
Yes.
because you got to have fun with this, but you got to stick to your guns. And I told y'all, my reason for picking Marianne was that I refuse to have somebody else have her on the team. Like if she wins or loses, I don't care, but I'm not rooting for her all season for somebody else to win with her. I'm not doing that. So yeah, the Mike thing, for a second, I was like, Mike might beat Marianne. That's probably what I thought for a second. But at no point did I think Mike was going to lose the fire making challenge. He's a fireman. I think just
you
through
would have won
osmosis,
either
he
way. You
probably-
would have won with a Mike win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Listen, I listen. If Marianne makes it, I win. If Mike makes it, I win. It's like the Marianne speech. It's synergy. That's exactly we planned this. I really have been waiting on my shout out from Marianne. I didn't hear it on the X interview, but I'm sure we just haven't.
It's
connected yet.
coming,
It's
I'm
fine.
sure.
It's fine.
Sure.
It's fine. I
But
just Omer.
y- You have proven that you can play the draft emotionally and still win. You can make the sentimental pick. You can recognize that someone made a mistake not picking the person that shouted them out in their preseason press. Like, you played this emotionally. You said, I don't know that Marianne's going to win, but I want to root for her and I want her on my team. And look at how you're rewarded. So this is proving that you can. The draft is not all about statistics and the probability and what likeliness this person is to win. And like, just do the emotional pick every once in a while. You can be rewarded.
Yeah. I slayed the dragon. I reversed the curse. I did all these like cliches that happen. No, Marianne is a queen. I'm so happy. I'm over the moon. Every time I see a Twitter post or something about Marianne winning, I just like kind of get caught up because I've been watching since day one. Like I told y'all, I started watching this show because of Jervis, and so to have like, okay, we've come out of the trenches, and this is where we are. Like we finally got another Black woman winner here. It was a good time to win the draft for me. So thank y'all for having me on to celebrate my victory. It's shot o'clock, y'all. So I know you're ready.
Congratulations again on being king of the Survivor draft and winning the Survivor 42 draft in spectacular fashion.
Thank you. And what is my prize?
We have to go back and check the tape on that.
I thought it was a cameo.
Okay.
I could be just
Cameo,
making
and I'm
that
not
up.
sure if there's anything else. Yeah.
I think you already got a cameo.
Yeah, Rob saw the cameo as well. Yeah. Oh wait, I get to decide the order for the next draft, which is going to be spicy.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But I do need to cash in on one of these on this win. So I don't know if it's going to be a cameo or what, but I want something. So Rob, put your brilliant brain to work and make it happen.
Okay, we'll see what we
Think
can
on
do.
it.
All right, Chappelle.
All right.
Thank you for stopping in on the finale feedback show. Okay.
No problem. Hold it down. See y'all later. Bye.
Bye,
Okay.
Chappelle.
All right.
Always a great
Penny,
time when he's
amazing.
here.
That was really not since Chris Underwood have we seen somebody win
A true
in
comeback king.
such a wild fashion.
Yeah. That's good
Okay.
TV.
Great TV. All right. Let's talk about some other things from the finale. Anything from the final tribal council that you want to highlight here?
I mean, honestly, it's all pretty much been said. There was a situation where Mike answers things differently, and I felt like they were literally, feeding him what they wanted him to say, and he still was kind of pushing back on it and didn't realize what was happening there and what his game truly was until it was too late. But there's absolutely a universe where if he delivers on those things and owns up to some of the things that he did and doesn't claim that he, was only going after people after they wronged him first, that he could pick up some votes and either make it a closer vote or potentially steal the thing completely. So that was kind of hard to watch because Mike did some really interesting stuff in the game, and I definitely was surprised by him. I did not, I did not expect to, be seeing this person, this archetype as like a contender to win the game. And then, but of course, like, Marianne was incredible. Like every answer was delivered perfectly. Her energy and emotions like were just at the optimal level to like show the passion you felt, but also just like carefully and confidently answer everything that she was given. And like you really see that carry on in like her exit press. Like she's just so good at answering things.
She was proficient with me earlier today.
Oh yeah. It was literally like it was still final tribal for her because she was like, she had the points ready and she like answered them succinctly, but like in a way that you felt like you truly got the answer. And I just felt like that was like absolutely her final tribal performance was she didn't yammer on too long like someone like me would. And she she was succinct, but she had the impact. Like that's what you want. It was really, really, it was a really great final tribal performance. And I liked that everyone was like pretty respectful. Like it's good when you see people get challenged, but like not completely dragged. I as much as I do love mess, I am also a sentimental softy person, and I like to imagine the world where everyone plays this game, does some really dirty ish to each other in the game, and then they're friends at the end. That's such a nice story for me, and I like to believe that sometimes. So I really liked that, the energy at the final tribal, while people were still being like held accountable for things, it always felt just like respectful and like I don't know. And that did carry in like to the after show, which I'm not a fan of how they do that, but there's some interesting elements. We will talk about that. But yeah, I just it was a really good final tribal council. And even Romeo, like, despite the fact that we had counted him out, like I thought the things that he said about his game were great. Like he played tribal council the best way he could for his game and his situation. So you can't count him out in terms of like how he performed with his situation.
Yeah. And just for Mike and Marianne, it's interesting, they had that moment where at the final 6 when they start to like work together really for the first time in the game. And Mike like puts his arm around Marianne and said, look at us, like we're bookends, like basically, the oldest person here and the youngest person here. And both of them really did a great job to overcome that sort of like age difference where, as Marianne pointed out, like there were other young people in the game. They did not fare as well as Marianne ultimately did. Marianne ultimately had to, sort of like, play the game and really, downplay some things in the second part of the game and really come across as more mature, or at least be able to, show off that side of her personality. And for Mike, as Drea pointed out, like, Mike is like twice the age of a lot of the people that are on the season. Mike at 57 would have been the oldest person to win the game. And Mike did an incredible job of overcoming that age difference. So I think that the two of them, it's interesting, that's first and second place in the season, that they're both coming at this from like different sides of the same thing of like relating to people that are not necessarily the same age as them.
Yeah, and I honestly was saying this last night, like at the finale party I was at, that like Marianne is a unicorn in that I think that it's really hard to be, as young as her, and be taken seriously when you get to the final three, and for people to want to give you $1 million just by that, like, fact alone, and just how they perceive you. And I think that like Marianne is really interesting in that she's like, she comes off so young, but she also comes off so mature and like wise beyond her years in like other ways. And I just think that like she's just a really interesting dynamic person in how she's able to turn, and I don't think she's necessarily purposely turning it on and off all the time, but it's like she has these sides of her personality where she can be like, this really like young, effervescent, like jovial person that's like, oh my gosh, Marianne, like you're so young and like you like fresh. And like then you see her perform in Final Tribal Council, and it's just like, this is someone who's like, seasoned in their career and has like been through many job interviews and just knows how to perform in these sorts of situations. Like it definitely seemed so much more beyond a 23-year-old.
Yeah, the edge.
It beyond the edge of a 23-year-old. But yeah, it was really great. And I think that she's very special. But also Mike as well, because he was taken seriously, ultimately kind of fumbled the bag at the end in how he owned his game. But like he played a different kind of game than that archetype is generally seen to be. Like I think people went in thinking that Mike would be more like what Roxroy was. And he ended up being like one of the most social players of the season. Like I don't think that you generally expect that from the oldest person on the cast, like to be mixing with everyone, having a relationship with everyone. And I just think that, like you said, both of them had very, very interesting paths given like what you would expect from players of their age.
Jenny, let's start to talk about the reunion show and beyond, or the after show and beyond. Right. So you touched on this a little bit. How did you feel like this format played here?
I hated it even more the second time. Actually,
yeah,
maybe not. Like I think because I like this cast's dynamic a little bit more, I didn't find it quite as like awkward as I found 41's, but it's just like what you said on Know It Alls last night. Like it's, why do we have to see them eating? Like that's not interesting. It's not important.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with not doing the reunion months later after the show was aired. That's fine. Doing something while they're still in the game mode and the, excitement and adrenaline is still a little high. That's great. Do it like the next day. Like let them shower.
Yeah.
Let them have a few conversations.
Yeah. I guess that they think that there's going to be something that's going to come out at the final trial, that like, we don't want to waste it at Ponderosa. It's like, well, so far we haven't seen that in 2 seasons of the show. I'm even saying like, you want them to eat like, take 20 minutes. Like, do we only have the tribal council? Like, are they closing? Does Fiji want their tribal council back at 9:00? Are we up against it here? I mean, I know it's probably a long day with the final tribal council and everything, but like, it's the last day.
I mean, how is it like taking less time when there was like 50 rounds of pizza apparently? Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? I have to think that if you take a break after the votes are read and like production says like, okay, no game talk, like we're going to do an after show like in a little bit, but we want you guys to be like fed and like feeling good. So have your food. We don't need to record it. And then we'll come back in a little bit and do this. Like give maybe a half an hour to decompress. What does it have to be immediately? And watching everyone eat pizza. And like Jeff is so excited. Like he thinks this is the greatest shit ever. Like he's like, champagne and like a million boxes of pizza, and like isn't it so great that like production assistants are the ones bringing in the pizza? Like we have a small crew here and they're all like, they all do all of the things. It's like, I guess if you're someone that really likes to see like beyond like the curtain of like what's going on in production, but I just don't think for a TV product and for people that are looking for like some sort of closure, like a bookend of the season and some sort of like compelling conversation about how things went, that we really need to be having like all of this stuff about like who needs more pizza. Like also
It's a party, Jenny.
I mean, I'm not even as averse to like the eating stuff on TV as you seem to be. Like it's not even about that for me. I just think that it is kind of distracting. And I think that not just distracting for the viewers, but also distracting for the people like that you're trying to have as like captive participants in like the conversation that you're having in this after show. Like it's just weird. I just don't like it.
I noticed Jeff didn't have any pizza this season, right? I think like last season he was like, I gotta get in here. I gotta get some of this pizza.
He's
but
still
we didn't see him
from the 41 pizza party, I guess.
Right. I wonder also that, do you feel like that maybe like some of the contestants like didn't even want pizza, and do you feel like that there's pizza pressure of you're in the jury and then Jeff's like, hey, come on, like come on, you gotta eat, it's a party, where are people taking a slice of pizza even if they didn't want one? Like, oh, okay, it's
like, making me feel like being at like my Irish grandmother's house and like I already ate too
Jenny,
much.
you don't
like,
eat. Come on.
You got exactly, and it's like, I can't disappoint Jeff. He really wants.
We made this just for you. It's your favorite.
Listen, as we said, guilt does not work, but maybe it does when it comes to pizza.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, like they have to, like the jury have eaten. Maybe they hadn't eaten in a couple hours. So I guess it's not like, I'm not shaming any of the jury for partaking, especially because Jeff is very encouraging of it. But it's like the three people that you probably want to hear the most from are the ones that are like probably savagely hungry and are like going to have pizza in their mouth the entire time because they're probably just like trying to get it in as much as possible. I also thought it was so weird how Jeff was like obsessed with the idea that Mike was eating a lot of pizza. Like, did you notice how much he commented on Mike eating pizza? And it didn't even seem like he was eating that much.
Okay. Well, in fairness, Mike had said earlier in the season that he did love pizza, and wanted to have, he wanted to eat so much pizza.
I knew that I was going to eat until pizza was coming out of my ears.
I did not check his ears to see if there was pizza coming out of it. I don't know if anyone was paying attention to that and can let us know if there was any sign of pizza coming out of Mike's ears. But like, it seemed like the whole first little bit of the after show, he wasn't eating at all. And then all of a sudden, like Jeff was like, Mike, I'm guessing you want to get in on some of this pizza. And then he doesn't shut up about it. He's like,
Mike, I think he's trying to process how he came, like probably spent the whole day thinking I'm going to win $1 million tonight. And then ultimately does not.
And so much of that after show is Jeff being like, wow, Mike really blew this, eh? How many of you people came in leaning towards Mike? And then he just, kind
Mike,
of fumbled the bag.
you're
All of
not
you?
eating? What's wrong? What's
He
like
and
you
Mike
have no
handled it
appetite? What is with you?
like he handled it
Why are you being
so
weird?
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what? You're not hungry? Like he's probably using all of his strength to just be like a good, strong person
Yeah.
and have like an
Right,
optimistic
yeah, this is
attitude.
great. What are you kidding me? This is great.
My
It's
life is
like,
great. Marianne's gonna do good stuff with this
yeah.
money. It's
Come
like I
on.
just
Come on.
had Jeff tell me, repeatedly that I could have won, and because of my own actions,
Right.
I lost myself this money. Like, what a great thing to be told seconds after it happens.
Yeah.
And you want me to eat pizza?
Yeah. Um, should they be bracing the players more? Like, I don't know why they wanted the I guess that like they want the shock reaction, but I kind of feel like that I don't know if we got a lot out of like, oh, they didn't know we're revealing the votes here. Like, I feel like that I don't know, was everybody like in the right mental space to find out like who is gonna, win? I think it's sort of like you go, not that I know about going into the final three, but I think you're sort of like, all right, let me just leave it all on the table and then we can relax after this. So it's like, oh, we're doing this now. Okay. Like I feel like little shocking for everybody.
Yeah, and they did seem to react like in a big way to it. I thought it was kind of funny how they had the clip of Jonathan like whispering to someone being like, does he read the votes here? And I guess
Like,
like
Jonathan, you idiot. No,
he was
never.
making a joke, I think, and like someone was like, "Oh my god, I thought you were maybe serious for a second." Like
Yeah,
I
I think it
thought
was
like
Lindsay.
editing
Yeah.
wise that was like cute because it's like they're gonna actually do it. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like this jury was really good in terms of like reactions. Like
Yeah.
I felt like we got a lot of like good shocked faces at like numerous things during the final tribal council, and ultimately the announcement that we were going to read the votes there was another one of those things where it's just like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know, would it help and matter? Is this the kind of thing that like, does it change anything for people to know that's going to
No, but I just
happen
think it would make the players like be in like a little bit of a like the headspace for that. Like I don't know what we gain so much other than shock face of that it's going to happen. But even for like the jurors to be able to talk about things like why not give them the heads up that we're gonna talk about things from the season? Like maybe they'll think of like some things that they want to talk about as
That's
opposed to
actually a
like
good point,
springing a reunion show on them.
Yeah, because like when you go to the actual reunion show the way that it used to be done, like people are coming to like with the, intention and hope that Jeff's going to ask them some kind of questions. They have some idea of what sort of things that they're going to get asked and they can prepare.
Right.
And then you're like, maybe it's less raw. We all know Jeff loves it raw. He mentions it all the time. So yeah, maybe he likes that it's a little less prepared and it's a little bit more like natural, but I don't know. I
mean,
think
way back when I was going to like the Survivor Amazon finale, like Jeff called up on the phone and was like, "Oh, let's go over some of the things that like we might talk about." And like sort of like, he would like, and I guess that was live, and so they weren't able to cut around. But like, I think he sort of like wanted to have like know what you were going to say when he was going to ask you specific questions.
To make sure that you're not going to say something bad.
Well, I think he kind of wants to know like what's your sort of vibe on different things, be able to know where he may want to like prod and probe with the cast.
It really takes away the impressiveness of when he like acts like he has like a really good like segue. He's like, oh, and that leads perfectly into so and so. Like, so you knew what you were going to talk about there. That this is all pre-planned. Yeah, I don't know. I do think that people are going to give possibly better and more thoughtful responses to things if they have some time to prepare. And that's why even just the next day while they're still in Fiji, before they get on the plane, to do it, and you can still get the like the nice feeling of seeing everyone like not as dressed up as they would be on like the CBS soundstage in LA or something like that. But like, it's nice when you see the jury all dressed up and showered and stuff like that. Like,
nice.
Give the final three that opportunity too the next day.
Sure, I get it. But these the players that the production, like I understand they're on like a time crunch in terms of like they need to like get out and sort of like, they had to do a 14-day quarantine. So they're out of time on the location for everybody. And so unless you wanted to make it like a 25-day game, like I understand like wanting to get that all that night. I just think that there's like I don't think they need to surprise. Well, I don't think that they will surprise the people in upcoming seasons, because it sounds like they're going to keep doing it and people will know. But just because you could surprise them, I don't know if it was necessarily that awesome to surprise them.
Yeah, it's not like the biggest, most exciting thing to surprise people with. The other thing, I don't know if you noticed this, Rob, but at the end of the final or the fire making tribal where Jonathan goes out,
Yes.
when he's seeing off the final 3 to go back to camp, he says, "This is your last night in Fiji." So does that mean the next night, which is final tribal council, and then they have this after show, were they getting on the plane after that?
No, I think he was just like
He lied.
speaking figuratively. Yeah,
He lied.
yeah.
Does he mean
Your
this
last
is
night, like in
this
Survivor.
is your last
Yeah,
night on the beach,
on the
perhaps?
beach.
Like this,
Yeah.
but he did say this is your last night in Fiji.
Yeah. Just
Misleading.
speaking for the after show, going back to that, I did feel like that it wasn't necessarily bad. I just thought it was kind of boring. And I
Yeah.
felt like that we did not get into too many exciting things. And look, and we had been asking for years of like, give us time with the contestants at the end of the season. We want to see them. We want to hear their stories. But I just feel like that, I think we are interested in like, how are they doing now? Less so than, okay, how are you doing like immediately after the game? Because I feel like that there were probably a lot of things that if they did like a proper reunion now, that was like 35 minutes. Like I feel like we would have talked about different things that we would have talked about immediately after the final tribal council.
You're really missing like so much of commentary on like the narrative and like how like some of the biggest drama comes from like how people felt watching the show and like the new emotions or like the familiar things that they felt before being brought up having watched the season back and not just experienced it. Like I almost just feel like, okay, if you're going to do this like raw immediate after show type thing where you're getting people's reactions while they're still in the mindset, like why not do that? I still think do it the next day or at least like an hour later after they've had a snack. But why not still do like even like a freaking Zoom reunion or something like where you actually get to have a like more extended conversation. I don't think anyone would be mad at that.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you have this Paramount Plus and,
Exactly.
you put anything you want on there. Like, I don't know why they aren't interested in like some sort of like, if they had like a 2-hour, like, hey, we caught up with all of the survivors here on Paramount Plus. I think like every Survivor fan would probably go check that out now.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, get me while I'm still in it before, I'm falling out of the post-show stuff. Like get it while it's still hot. But
like
like
the
why?
pizza.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that people would want that. And if it's about the production costs and the travel costs of getting people to literally in person, you still do something virtually and produce it together and make it look nice. Come on.
Jenny, Jeff was bouncing around asking people some different questions about different aspects of their games and their lives. And so I thought that Jeff did ask one question. I thought that was a little, maybe a little out of line. Can I play this for you? This was something that I caught. I don't know if a lot of people keyed in on this. Here was Jeff talking to Lindsay.
Also have to point out, you were originally slated to be in Survivor 41. You tested positive for COVID, could not come out. And would you have been okay if you had died?
Yeah, that to me, that was a little,
Like, would you have been okay? Like, what? I don't understand what he's asking there.
So that was Those were two separate questions that
Was that
got-
spliced together? Like, how did it feel to get COVID and not be on 41? And also, how would you feel if you died? Like, Jeff, that's very insensitive.
that was don't blame Jeff for that one. That was, he had asked he said he had asked Lindsay about Lindsay. Like, you seem like you really loved the do or die. She's like, yeah, well, I liked it. I it worked out for me. And Jeff asked her then the question.
And would you have been okay if you had died?
Those are not. Why is that and? Why is that not a separate question?
Yeah. Because it speaks to maybe do or die is not the greatest name for this. But then he did ask her then about having testing positive for COVID and then ultimately being scratched from the cast of season 41.
Yeah, and
That's not great for Lindsay all around.
I mean, sure. I guess you could say if she had made it onto 41, maybe.
And Tiffany
things would be
ultimately
different.
got her spot.
Yes,
being
I
on
liked getting that filled in and hearing the other end of how that worked out, because we did hear about Tiffany getting pulled in earlier. Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's just weird that only one person's story about how they got cast and that sort of part was highlighted here. I don't know. I just feel like it was kind of a strange conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But,
especially if he's asking if she'd care if she died.
Well, again, I want to repeat in the do or die. In the do or die.
It was just a really weird way of framing it, and the way the clip was cut.
And would you have been okay if you had died?
What a weird question in a vacuum. Would you be okay if you died? I'm I guess I'm dead. So, no, yes, I don't know. I don't love the do or die as branding, because I don't like when you're saying that someone's dying and they're not actually dying. This happens in the org community, and it drives me absolutely insane, where people will be like, oh, so and so died, and it's no, they got voted out. Let's stop with the dying. I just don't like that imagery when it's not actually. So I'm actually.
And would you have been okay if you had died?
Yeah.
The answer is no. I mean, either way. I just don't like using the word die when it's not actually die.
Especially when it starts with, would you have been okay?
Such a strange thing to ask somebody, no matter what the context.
Yeah. Okay. Tommy Guam wants to ask us, is the 26-day format better for a low-profile game? Okay, so we've made a lot of changes to the game. It's hard to really say, in this experiment where I think that I'm not a scientist, Jenny, but when you change everything, are you able to really determine your results based on two outcomes of running the same experiment?
No, I don't think so. It's only two. I just think that that's not enough of a sample, and I'm not saying keep rerunning the exact same stuff over and over again. But if we're going to continue to do 26 days, I think we need to see a few more outcomes before we can say for sure that it really benefits a certain type of player over another. Because so many other things come into play too. The twists play a role. Sometimes certain twists will benefit certain types of players over others. I think it's too much of a small sample to say that it benefits the under the radar type of person. I don't know. Is it just because they don't have to do that for as long?
I just think that the game is so unpredictable that I think that the under the radar players are going to probably have a better chance of getting picked off before we get to the merge. But I think that once they get into a merge situation. Like, I feel like, especially the way that we had the hourglass twist, we split up into the two groups. It's sort of like, if you are a big target at a certain point, like those are the only people that people are trying to get out of the game.
Right. Yeah.
It's sort of like you just reach like a point where if you can make it to, where the split tribal council was, you were kind of like home free to the final, 4 or 5.
Yeah, and if it starts to get really predictable with the same sorts of results and the same sort of people going at different points of the game, then like maybe at that point you can say that this is functioning in a certain way. But I think after 2 seasons, we need to see a little bit more.
Okay. This is a fun question from Megan, who asks us, over under on how many players from this cast return. So of course we've spoke at lengths about the strength of the cast.
Yeah.
How many all-stars do you think we're getting out of this cast? And I think it really will depend on when do they do another all-stars, and then also is it only people from the new era?
Yes, I think that it's a very strong cast that you would want to bring back quite a few people, but it is so dependent on, like, again, that we're in a new era. We don't know how much we're going to rely on, because like in the previous era of Survivor, like you knew that like, maybe like every 4 seasons or something like that, we might get like at least some returnees or something like that. Now we don't know if pre-40, I guess pre-40 people or are going to be later days are going to be in the mix, which really sucks if you're like someone that was like a standout person from like the high 30s and would have been brought back, but they're just saying like, no, this is a new era, we're only looking at people who've played on 41 or later. That's like kind of a raw deal for some of those people. With that said, because I can't imagine we're getting returnees any earlier than like, you got to think like 45, 46 probably, right?
46 could be fans versus favorites,
like
season 16, season 26 maybe.
See, then you're only getting half a cast of returnees if that's the theme. I want to say, okay, so if we're going to do over under, they don't want to have it too heavy on people that have played together too, right? Because then it's like you're kind of like setting up those people for failure in a way, because it's like, oh, we got to target all the people from this season. Maybe it's more of like a Big Brother thing. I don't know. I think that they easily could bring back like 4 people for sure.
4. I mean, I think I would take the over on 4 people.
I think that they could. I think that they could take over 4, but I'm thinking realistically.
Okay. Here, let me give it an over under. Okay.
Okay.
My over under for this season is 5.5 players from this season will play Survivor again.
Survivor again?
Yes.
And just period.
Period.
Okay. Well, then I think that it's over.
Over. You want to name them?
Sure. I don't know. That's
you get
that's
to 6.
hard.
6 people will be back.
Okay.
Marianne.
Yeah, Marianne.
When's Winners at War too?
Yeah, if they're gonna bring back winners,
Could you imagine?
I would die. I would love it. But I did hear her say that she needs some time, and I think that's very wise. Like,
you didn't say playing next season.
No, play again in like your like late 20s, early 30s, like the hot spot. Like, imagine Marianne at that age. Oh my gosh. Okay, so other people that I think are strong.
When Survivor 50? What? Oh God, 3 years from now? Is that enough time?
3 years from now is Survivor 50?
I mean, so 1 year from now will be 4 years. 1 year from now, because we lost that year. 1 year from now, and what is time? 1 year from now is going to be Survivor 44. 1 year from 2 years from now will be 46. So yeah, so 4 years from now, Marianne will be. Was she 23 or 24 now?
20. I think she's 24 now, but I think she's 23.
28.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. That sounds good. That's like you're getting right into the in my opinion, the sweet spot of like life experience and all of that. But in terms of other people, obviously Omer, like he, huge standout. I definitely can see like Hai and Drea both as people that would like you would want to see play again.
I think both would be in the mix for coming back. I think Mike.
Yeah, I think Mike definitely. Like
Mhm.
he's just such a like fun presence on a season.
Survivor can't wait to bring back Jonathan. Jenny, did we lose you?
I'm not
Is your
frozen. No.
Did we lose your connection?
Do you?
Hold on.
No,
Let me see. I'm sorry, everybody.
just
We're trying to
taking a
get
moment.
Jenny's audio back.
Okay, sorry. I was just taking a moment. Really? Do you think that that's what, like, is that top of their list?
I don't know if he's top of their list, but definitely just based on what we saw on the show, especially from the first half of the season.
The first half is, I feel like it was like a tale of two Jonathans, really, the season, because I do feel like they were kind of like not
Again, we're not saying like here's Rob and Jenny's list of who's like the question is, are we getting to 6 people from this season that will play again ultimately?
I also think that
like
they
on
could
the
look
last
at Jonathan
day of Earth, when they go back and listen to this podcast, will we be right or will we be wrong?
Okay, but here's my case against Jonathan returning, and not just like out of like this is how they should consider it. So what does he come back and do? Is he going to come back and play a different game, or is you're just setting him up for failure because now people have watched him play and are like, this guy like just wins everything. Even if I think I can beat him at the end, I don't want him here because he will win challenges that then I can't win and possibly, get safety for myself that I need. I just don't think that like there's like some totally different game that he plays in a way that he's seen differently by, a different cast that makes it worth bringing him back again.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I understand what you're saying. I almost feel like that, if you have, and not even specifically Jonathan himself, even like, let's just refer to him as a Jonathan type because then there's less baggage there.
For sure.
For the Jonathan type, I wonder if he's in another season, are people like, he's not a threat, like not bothering me, like let him stick around. I'm more worried. I'm more worried about, who's the Marianne in the season, who's the person that, we're not worried about that's going to win the game as opposed to Jonathan.
This is like the annoying thing about this is like people get fixated on like the type of person that like, is the threat and needs to be. And this is how we end up like, oh, we've had 2 women winners in a row. Like now, are we going to get to a point where like people are like, it's the Erica and Marianne types that like get to the end. We got to take them out. And we're going to start seeing us like the pendulum swinging right back to the other way where we're going to start seeing like male comp beasts winning because everyone got so fixated after a couple seasons of a woman winning. They're like, oh, well, we've got 2. We can't handle any more than that. So now we're going to start targeting these people in like these new seasons. I don't know. I hope it's not going to be like that because how it's incredible that we've, after such a terrible drought, that we've had 2 women of color back-to-back winners. And just like some different archetypes in terms of a winner in general. I just really hope that people don't fixate on like what that means for future seasons and the type of people that slide through and the type of people that get targeted.
But I think there's also the possibility, that you could see more sort of like under the radar women targeted, but could that benefit women like Lindsay or Drea, who are more like out in front in terms of winning the game?
And it could result in that. I'm just always like I'm holding my breath because I'm like I it feels like such a refreshing time,
Mhm.
and I don't want to go back to that dark
Yeah.
place where
Well, I will just say this. So the Survivor 43 cast only saw one season. They
Right.
did not. They were
They wouldn't
already
have
were
seen
playing their game.
Mhm.
To this, they didn't see how season 42 ultimately ended. So I think that
That's
at
true.
the earliest, you might see in season 44. But Survivor is often played in a vacuum.
Yes, that's a good
I
point.
think that they could get the 6 returning players from this season.
No, I think you're right, and especially if it's like returning at some point and not all at the same time. I think that, and again, if they're only taking 41 and over, then yes, I definitely think that
Mhm.
they're taking a lot from this season because I think it's just a really good cast. But
Okay.
if they're going, if they're dipping back in the pre-40 era just to spice it up a little bit, that could get interesting, and they might not have as many.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What a non-answer from me.
Look, you don't want to get locked into anything.
Yeah, I don't need somebody clipping this and being like, idiot.
Yeah, whatever.
They ended up having 7 people.
We should be so lucky that somebody's listening to this in a few years. Okay. Jenny, so Survivor 43, we got our first look. Okay.
Mhm.
Michael Butler O'Rear Jr. said, can we discuss the Survivor 43 logo? Are we pro octopus?
I mean, I don't know what the octopus means. So it's certainly okay. So octopi are very visually interesting when it comes to art. So from in my opinion, I think they're a really cool thing to draw or paint. So in terms of aesthetically on the logo, I think it looks really cool. I think it looks badass. I don't know what it means though. I don't know why there's an octopus. I don't know if it's symbolism for anything.
I mean, why they have a lock and key on this season? I think it's just clip art at this point. I don't think it means anything.
Yeah. Are there is there octopus in the ocean there?
I mean,
yeah, 'cause they catch them sometimes, right?
famously, Davey, that caught an
Right.
octopus or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Roxroy caught an octopus this season in
did
a
he?
secret
I
scene.
forgot about that. Oh, right,
Yeah.
in the secret scene. Yeah, no, I think it looks cool. Visually, it is a very cool. It's more interesting to me than a lock and key.
Mhm.
But
Nick
I don't
Bloom
know
said,
that.
Sir Squidington made it onto the
Oh
logo.
my goodness, is
Mhm.
that him?
Yeah, apparently.
Apparently.
Yeah, let me show
Oh
you
my God.
if you're watching the video of this to see the logo of the Survivor 43 octopus. Here it is. Okay. All right. Let me see if I can give you the zoomed in version. So yeah, big octopus.
Yeah, it's got a big head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the balance.
Octopus
Again,
Island.
I'm looking at this from an aesthetic or logo graphics type mindset
Yes.
where it's really good. You have the balance of the octopus head with the person on the island with the torch. It's
Yeah.
very well balanced in terms of elements.
Yep.
Within
It is a giant octopus. There's a person holding a torch there for scale.
Yeah.
If I had to guess what does this mean, if anything, I would say that the octopus is a representation of
the monster.
the monster.
Yes.
The dreaded monster, which we actually might have learned the identity of the
Yes.
monster last night.
Deep inside this little man, there's a monster.
Okay.
I am so glad that you clipped that because I loved that. Romeo is the monster?
Romeo is the monster.
Who knew?
And would you have been okay if you had died?
No. Still no. Right?
Is that clip the new what would you do if I killed you?
Yes.
Shout out to BB2.
Yes, that's
Would
Brian
you be
Scally
okay
did
if
have
people-
the tweet last night of what is it, the epic handshake of Jeff Probst and Justin from BB2.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
I'm unexpectedly plagiarizing my dear friend Brian Scally. Listen, I wasn't too deep on the Twitter streets last night,
Mhm.
but listen, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Jenny, a couple of more things to get into. Okay, Mike Bloom also, can Jenny Autumn pull an Omer and figure out which Survivor 42 player is most like a duck?
Okay.
Now you love waterfowl.
I do.
Omer loves birds.
Yeah. Who is like a duck? Okay, so honestly, I mean, I can't pick Mike because Omer already did Mike. He said he was a koala bear, right?
Yes.
I actually kind of think, okay, so ducks are pretty like social. So it has to be someone on the cast that is more of a social person. Like maybe Lindsay.
Mhm.
Lindsay could be a duck. She's like athletic. I feel like she was good in the water. And she's got like, yeah, I think she's got a little bit of that like sass in her that like, because that's the thing is like ducks are really cute, but also like they're protective and they're loyal and they will, bite your finger if you come at them a little too.
Oh my God.
Like aggressively or just unexpectedly. So I definitely could see Lindsay being the duck of the season. She honestly kind of played the game that I think Mike thought he played because she was pretty loyal. Like she didn't really backstab anyone. So except for apparently Jonathan, and he'll never forget it. So yeah, I think that I am going to stick with my gut pick of Lindsay is the duck.
Okay. Jenny, I want to share something else to you that just came across my desk.
Breaking news are happening now.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
It's been sent in that there is a newly found BuzzFeed list about Survivor.
Okay.
Okay, posted 5 hours ago here on Thursday.
List about what?
The list is the greatest Survivor nerds of all time ranked.
Oh, okay.
They have taken the top 34 Survivor nerds and ranked them. This is from Matthew Huff from BuzzFeed.
Okay. All right, Matthew.
Okay. Now,
What do you got?
the worst nerd in the history of Survivor. Now, is this good? Is this a compliment to be called the worst nerd, or do you want to be the best nerd?
Yeah, are they ranking you on how nerdy you are, or just like how much we like you? Like, what is the criteria of this? This BuzzFeed ranking, which
Like,
we know is
yeah.
serious.
Like, if you were the 35th best nerd and didn't make the list, should you be celebrating right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the 34th best nerd of all time is Anthony Robinson, friend of the podcast.
Okay.
Okay. So, some notables.
There's
Season
notable
41's, no, not Chris Noble.
No, I didn't say notables.
Okay. Yes.
But that would be great.
Yes. Okay. So here are the criteria for being on the best nerd list. Number 1, I'm not ranking every nerd to ever play, just the ones who left the biggest impression.
Okay.
Number 2, nerd is a bit of a subjective term, so I did my best to quantify the individuals I selected my nerd criteria, which includes things like occupation, level of Survivor knowledge, puzzle solving skills, hobby, social awkwardness, and attire.
So glasses.
Glasses. Okay. And third, lastly, this ranking is based on overall performance in the game, nerdiness on the show, and general iconicness. In other words, this is highly subjective.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Some other notable nerds on the list. 32, Evie Jagoda clocks in.
Yep. I like that.
Interestingly, at number 30, Kellen Bechtold makes the list.
No, I think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that Kellen, like,
hey, yo, Romeo.
Yeah.
Like, That's nerd energy. And I love Kellen. And also there's nothing wrong with being a nerd.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
At 29, Karishma makes the list.
I mean, the love of Applebee's.
I guess is
Pretty
she an
nerdy.
Applebee's nerd?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
like its whole own genre of nerd is the Applebee's nerd.
First Survivor 42 check-in for Omer Zahir at 26.
Okay.
26 biggest nerd.
26. I like that number. So I like that
26th
place for
greatest nerd,
Omer.
I should say.
My friend Omer. Yeah.
Okay. Then Rick Devens makes the list.
Are you surprised?
I don't know if I would have had Rick Devens in the nerd archetype.
I mean, first of all, glasses.
I guess I just have glasses. Yeah. At number 20, Lil Morris clocks in on the biggest, greatest Survivor nerd list.
Yes.
I thought I'd be higher. You said you would get me back on the top of the list.
Well, you did great.
20.
No, you
Yeah.
should be happy with that.
Some friends of the pod in the top 20. Hannah Shapiro at 19. Christian Hubicki only at number 18.
He didn't even crack the top 10.
Not one of the 17 greatest nerds in the history of the show.
Listen, Matt Hoff.
Mhm.
I need to have words with you.
Number 17, Scout Cloud Lee.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. All right. Mike White ends up at 13. I don't think he's gonna like that.
He's not going to be a fan.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think he'd be a fan of
Adam
that.
Klein clocks in at 11.
Okay.
This season's winner, Marianne, comes in at number 9 on the greatest nerd list.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think she
congratulations,
deserves to be in the top 10.
making the top 10. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. We're inside of the top 10. Some other notables. Okay. Number 7, yours truly, the 7th greatest nerd. I will not be telling this to my wife tonight. That's who you're married to. The 7th
Number
greatest nerd
7?
in Survivor history. Yeah.
Would you brand yourself as a nerd?
Jenny, should I be mad that I'm not higher, or I should be mad that I'm not lower?
I truly don't know. That's the confusing thing about this list is like, is it a compliment?
Mhm.
Do you want to be fighting for that title? I guess it just depends.
I think it's that in the blurb is complimentary.
Okay.
So okay.
Well, that's good then, I guess.
I will take it as a compliment. Although here's where it gets annoying. Number 6, Stephen Fishback.
Oh, he had to do it to you.
Yes.
That's dirty.
They said
That's dirty.
Stephen took the Rob role, made it a little more dorky and cerebral, put some glasses on it, and sent it back into the game. So you heard it here first. Stephen Fishback, more dorky.
He's definitely more
Mhm.
dorky, according to this man.
Yeah. Okay. And
You
then,
can't let him know. Do you really want him to have this over you?
I don't know, but then
He's never finding this article. There's no
I
way.
think he'll tweet about it by the end of the night.
Oh, you think so?
I think so. Okay. Number 5 is Chaos Cass, top 5
Okay.
nerd.
Yeah.
Number 4, Cochran, a little bit of an upset.
4?
Yeah, just making Mount Nerd more.
I'm very intrigued to see who the top 3 are then.
Okay. All right. Top 3 Survivor nerds of all time. Number 3, Sophie Clark. Top 3 Survivor greatest nerds.
I love Sophie, and I know that this is a compliment. I just can't comprehend Sophie above Cochran. Like,
Yeah.
Sophie's pretty cool. Like,
Okay.
she's not.
She does have glasses, Jenny.
She does have glasses. That is true.
Okay. Number 2 of Survivor's greatest nerd, Yao Man is number 2.
Wow.
And
Okay.
Can you guess number 1?
Oh my gosh. No.
I'll give you a hint. Number 1 is a
Okay.
woman.
Number 1 is a woman. Oh my gosh. I'm
Number 1 is a woman. As a 3-time player.
3-time player. Oh, is it Aubrey?
It is Aubrey.
Wow.
Aubrey.
What'd they
ends up-
say about Aubrey?
Glasses, check. Ivy League degree, check. Meltdown early in the game, check. Good at puzzles, check. Strategist, check. Weird hobby, crayon art, check. Superfan, check. Nerd, Idols, Sophie, Cochran, and Greg, check. She is queen of the nerds.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't hate it.
It's interesting. It's a bold pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't argue. Like if she was in like the top 3, I wouldn't be like, that's completely wrong. But when you leave some of these other people out, like that, I think should be higher. I don't know.
Okay.
It's very interesting. Are you proud? Are you gonna like add this to your bio on Twitter? Like voted
nerd of I don't think it was voted. I was just listed.
Okay, ranked number 7.
I'm probably not gonna
nerd.
lead with it. Yeah.
If only there was more room in your Twitter bio for that.
Yeah. Okay. So there we go. Maybe my Twitter, my mentions are blowing up. Okay. All right. You can check that out on BuzzFeed.com. All right.
Incredible.
Jenny, anything else you want to say about Survivor 42?
Just that it was a really great time, and there's things that I hope to never see again.
Like what?
I mean, the whole merge situation.
Well, Jeff gave an article. He did a interview with Dalton Ross this week, and he talked about the new era. He's like, it is here to stay. Okay. So that he says, when this is the new era of the game, this is Dalton Ross asked a question. The question was, finally, your cast of 42 was completely clueless to all the twists coming their way, which was kind of a first for you all. After 2 straight seasons of Prisoner's Dilemma, Shot in the Dark, Goofy Idol Phrase, Hourglass Twist, Hourglass Tryst would have been more exciting. A do or die that every Survivor fan turned player is now familiar with. Do you see those going away now for new wrinkles that the folks aren't able to prepare for? Jeff says, here's a big hint to our future players. When we say this is a new era of the game, we mean it. We are establishing new markers. So things like small tribes, earn the merge, no food, risk reward dilemmas, shot in the dark are here to stay. Other specific twists will come and go depending on the season. Interestingly, Jeff did not list do or die as one of the ones that is here to stay.
I mean, I think that do or die is like one of the ones that is easier to do again.
Would you have been okay if you had died?
I would be okay if they continued to do and die. I don't think that like the fake merge and the hourglass is something that is like hits the same if they're doing it season after season. Because I think after seeing it twice, there's no upside for the person to not like break the hourglass. So it's like,
they
how
can't do the
compelling is
hourglass
this?
again.
Like, how compelling?
I mean, they could get to, okay, we're going to merge at 12 and then you have a competition and it's 6 and 6. But you can't do the hourglass again.
No. So if they want to do, some of them they can continue to do, or they can like alter a little bit. But it's like some of these things only worked because they were new and not seen before. And it's not to say that get rid of everything and we go back to the old type of game. That's not really what I don't think anyone's suggesting that, Mr. Jeff. But I do think
Jeff stick.
I don't know. Do you think that there's going to be someone that brings back Mr. Jeff in the next season?
I can see Mr. Jeff sticking.
That should be something you do when you preview the 43 cast. Whenever that happens, is you need to like have like a superlative of like most likely to carry on Mr. Jeff.
Yeah. Last week with Mike Bloom, I did a quiz with Mike. We had 8 questions that we asked each other. Let's just grade my quiz with Mike. Does Zach come up at the reunion? No, he was mentioned in the final tribal council, but not at the reunion. I'm going to say that's a point for both Mike and I. Okay. Do beware phrases come up? Mike and I both said yes. Will pizza be back? Mike Bloom and I both said yes.
Yeah.
Most likely to not get a question. Mike said Chanel, Rob said Tori, but I think everybody got questions.
I think everyone, which is nice.
Yeah.
But also it's like just the jury. So
yeah. Okay. Survivor 43 tease video. Will there be one at the reunion show? I thought they were too close to the production filming. I said no. Mike said yes. Mike Bloom was right. So advantage Mike. However, will the do or die come up at the reunion show? Mike went out and said no. And to Mike, I say,
And would you have been okay if you had died?
yeah. So that is a point to
There you
Rob.
go.
We're even. Okay. 2 more questions. Who will get a question about what they learned about themselves? Okay. I said Drea. Mike said Omer. Did that come up?
I feel like if anything, I mean, it definitely came up in Final Tribal Council, but not in the after show. I feel like he kind of had sort of a question like that for Drea. Like, he asked Drea, didn't he? Like, he said something. He's like, I feel like you're, like he made that motion where, like, I feel like he was trying to say that, she seems uptight, but she's like really full of love or something like that. And then like it kind of turned into,
He did ask her a weird question at one
yeah,
point.
it was something along those lines. I think it's fair enough to say
All
that
right.
that's the point.
And then the last question was most chatty juror. Mike said hi. I said Omer. I think I'd give advantage high here. I was a little more chatty than Omer.
It was pretty close. I feel like they both like definitely like piped in at a couple different times when it wasn't like necessarily their question, and they were both pretty active in the jury. But yeah, I think I'm fine with,
call it a
with
tie.
that being. Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Jenny.
Great job.
All right. We should start to land the plane here tonight. But this was a very fun recap of the topics at hand here in Survivor 42's finale. How about this? AJ wants to know which player this season would do well on Beyond the Edge, and who would pull a meta world piece?
Okay. Well, I mean,
me and you are on the Beyond the Edge. Let's draft our teams.
Oh gosh. Oh, is this like I'm drafting the team of who, like, of people I want that are gonna do well, or is it just who I want on my team? Like,
just for this adventure.
Okay.
Can you feel the love tonight, as the estimable Elton John once said?
Oh, Morrow, I miss you already. Okay. Well, Morrow he's insinuating it's coming back. So I mean, being on Survivor once is like pretty much cause to be considered a celebrity of this caliber. So if Beyond the Edge season 2 becomes a thing, like Morrow seems to think it will be, we could literally see someone from this. You have to go with Jonathan. Like,
he would be good.
Literally carries.
Yeah,
like that. This is
like major edgelord material.
Oh, he's king of the edgelords. Like he's like running the whole show. And he's
he'd be good. Mike would be good. Lindsay would be good.
Drea, I think, would be good.
Drea would be good. I think Roxroy would be good at living in the jungle, but he wasn't so much of a standout in the challenge.
He'd be like a good camp life type. I don't know. Yeah, but you need some balance.
Make the fire.
Yeah, he'd be really good at the teepee hands.
Yeah. Jonathan would be like, well, okay, Mr. Morrow. Thank you.
Oh my God. Can you just imagine Morrow and Jonathan's banter?
Jonathan, what it do?
What it do, Jonathan?
What it do, Jonathan?
There's just like fist bumping when you arrive at the lanterns. Can you imagine anyone listening right now that has no idea what we're talking about?
I mean, the people that listen to the Beyond the Edge podcast had no idea.
Yeah, that's for you.
Either, so
we'll never forget the edge lords and ladies.
Okay. All right, Jenny, what's coming up for you? I know you were on the B&B last week.
Yeah. Always a beautiful disaster. If you haven't listened yet, I guess you could.
Yeah, I heard there was not that much Survivor talk, so it's evergreen.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Honestly, I think Phil tweeted that he talked more about Survivor on this podcast than he did on the 3-hour Ghost Island ranking show he was
Chris
on.
Noble. Speaking of Chris Noble.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
One of Survivor's greatest nerds. Yeah.
Yeah, so we did that last weekend. I always love podcasting with those three. It's a really
Double
good
date
time.
podcast. Yep.
But in terms of the horizon, just a little bit of a quiet time while we see what is next coming down the pipe. I do believe though we still have to do celebrity exorcism.
Yes, and we have I think we have a plan coming together
Okay.
for that. So be on the
I'm
lookout
very
for
excited.
Celebrity Exorcism coming up with myself and
Chappelle.
Jenny and the draft winner Chappelle.
Can't wait for that. So that'll be great. And then other than that, just enjoying a little bit of a quieter time before we get hit with more Big Brother.
Yeah.
BB24. It'll be here before we know it.
And yeah, we'll get sloppy and much more coming
Can't
up
wait.
for the summer
Yes.
of 2022 here on Robin's podcast. Okay. Then Jenny, for me, of course, we have wrapping up all of the Survivor stuff. Had a fun time with Chappelle this week talking about. Did you get to watch over on Netflix Senior Year?
I did not, but
you would like it. You would
do you
like
think
it.
I would like it? Okay, because
Definitely.
honestly, that's all I need is a recommendation from someone like you that knows me. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
if you can just tell me, watch this thing, because there's just so much stuff, and I have no way of knowing
Too much.
what's worth watching. But I will take that recommendation. I will check it out.
Yes, and also be sure to check out all of our other Survivor podcasts this weekend from the B&B with Ali Lasher this week. Why Marianne won, not to mention Survivor Stock Watch, the Purple Pants podcast, Survivor Global. It's all coming your way at robbinswebsite.com, and make sure you subscribe at robbinswebsite.com/subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.